The 1969 moonwalkers relied on more than just American ingenuity. Instead, the mission's success was built upon a complex foundation of transferred scientific knowledge and intelligence. Beyond the Apollo missions, a secret intelligence program known as Operation Paperclip erased the Nazi history of 600 German scientists and engineers. This covert operation effectively scrubbed their wartime records to facilitate their recruitment into the United States. To understand this, we must look at the years following World War II. As the Allies advanced into Germany, they discovered a wealth of scientific talent and advanced research. While Allied troops pushed into Germany, planners were already preparing a different type of warfare. The goal went beyond land grabs. They wanted the scientists powering the enemy's advanced weapons. The US feared losing Germany's scientific lead to the Soviets, prompting a strategic move to secure that research and its experts. This led to a secret intelligence program called Operation Paperclip. They didn't announce a hiring spree. Instead, they secretly grabbed scientists from the ruins of the falling Nazi government. This operation ran for 14 years, specifically from 1945 to 1959. The global superpowers raced to close a widening technological gap that grew daily, intensifying the competition for scientific advancement. This program fundamentally restructured American science, integrating former enemies directly into the US military-industrial complex. This strategic move effectively absorbed foreign expertise into domestic defense systems. The US faced a hard choice: uphold fundamental human rights or chase technological supremacy. This dilemma defined the post-war era. On July 20, 1945, the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff launched Operation Overcast, a strategic initiative designed to recruit German scientists. Back then, people involved often used the terms overcast and paperclip to mean the same thing. The mission focused on two practical, concrete objectives. Initially, the U.S. recruited German scientists to gain an advantage in the war against Japan. Next, the US had to expand military research for the coming post-war period. U.S. Army Counterintelligence Corps (SEAC) agents performed the actual, hands-on fieldwork during this complex operation. These specialized agents acted as recruiters, scouring the desolate German ruins for specific names and critical research papers. They didn't want random scientists, they wanted the men who built weapons of mass destruction. They identified Wernher von Braun as a key figure in the development of rocket technology. German-American engineer Wernher von Braun designed much of the early American space program. However, his resume included a dark reality. He belonged to the Nazi Party and the SA. During the war, von Braun worked at the Peenemünde Army Research Center. This facility served as the primary site for his rocket development projects. He helped design the V-2 rocket, a weapon used to bomb Allied cities during the war. The V-2 rocket fundamentally altered how we approach spaceflight, serving as the technological precursor to modern orbital rocketry. On June 20, 1944, the V-2 rocket crossed the Kármán line, making it the first man-made object in space. The same rockets used to bomb London eventually provided the basic technology needed to launch humans into space. After the war, the U.S. secretly brought von Braun to America through Operation Paperclip. This clandestine program recruited many German scientists for American research projects. Following World War II, the U.S. recruited over 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and technicians as part of a secret intelligence program. These recruits were confirmed members of the Nazi Party, the SA, and the SA, bringing their specialized scientific expertise into the American program. The government hid Nazi ties to help these scientists integrate into American life. During the Cold War, the U.S. rebranded these men as vital assets instead of war criminals. They systematically altered official records and documentation to effectively hide their Nazi past from investigators. This recruitment effort paid off when the US launched its first satellite, Explorer-1, back in 1958. Von Braun engineered the powerful rockets that enabled that specific historic launch. He later took charge as director of the Marshall Space Flight Center. This specific scientific hardware drove the Cold War's most brutal competition, fueling a high-stakes technological race between superpowers. The space race was a struggle for ideological dominance between the US and the Soviet Union, not just exploration. The US and USA raced to prove which political and economic system worked better. This sparked a global race for tech dominance and satellite spying. The Soviet launch of Sputnik in 1957 changed everything, triggering an intense global competition. The Saturn V rocket, which launched humans to the moon, actually traced its engineering roots back to German designs. This belonged to the Saturn rocket family, which featured the Saturn I and the massive Saturn V. The American space program's foundational structure relies directly on the pioneering work done at Peenemünde. Operation Paperclip remains the 20th century's most difficult ethical dilemma. It forces us to question wartime morality. The US reached the moon, yet this success relied on questionable ethics regarding its core values. The US chose national interests over global justice by recruiting Nazi-era scientists. This strategic decision prioritized Cold War technological advantages over accountability. This program shows how scientific progress often happens without any regard for morality. These paperclips did more than attach new identities to these men. They actively helped erase their actual histories, effectively scrubbing their Nazi past from the official record. Using intelligence to gain tech advantages set the stage for later wars. This strategic pursuit of scientific knowledge fundamentally reshaped global military capabilities. Current views on space exploration and military tech still reflect this era's lasting impact on global politics. Space architects and weapons developers were essentially the same people during this era, as many engineers transitioned from designing missiles to rockets. The program remains a controversial chapter in American history, as the US prioritized national interests and scientific progress. D2 rocket technology directly shaped the lunar landings we see in the Apollo mission records. Recruiters used a specific vetting method to avoid being caught by the Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency's oversight. Intelligence officers changed biographical records to hide their actual ties to the S or Nazi party. This scheme let well-connected party officials enter the United States without facing any legal consequences. D2 rocket technology changed everything for military strategy during this specific period. At Wernher, Peenemunde's propulsion systems established the basic physics used for later long-range ballistic missile development. This shared expertise drove the initial engineering of the Redstone and Jupiter missile programs. These engineers moved south, turning the American South into a primary center for aerospace engineering work. Relocated engineers moved to Huntsville, Alabama, driving the local tech boom and changing the city's industry. These scientists drove the shift from traditional artillery toward using orbital weapons systems. But bringing these people in caused real friction among American scientists during that period. Local scientists worked with former enemies inside top-secret labs during the Cold War. This forced partnership meant everyone stayed quiet about where the original research actually came from. The military and intelligence branches had to coordinate closely to run the program's logistics. Wernher's TA, the US, raced to secure vital intellectual property before the Soviet Union finished its own complex extraction process. And the Soviet Union ran its own talent grab, a campaign known as Operation Paperclip at the same time. This competition split European science into competing zones fighting for the same talented researchers. This triggered a global arms race where nations competed using specialized scientific knowledge instead of just heavy steel weaponry. NASA's decision to hire these scientists built a lasting foundation for deep space exploration missions. But the base of this infrastructure actually came from repurposed wreckage of wartime research. Looking at this era, we see how the need for defense forces a nation to abandon the principles it protects. These secret personnel transfers fundamentally changed how 20th century technology developed during that era. Scientists in the 1950s built their breakthroughs directly on top of laboratory successes from the 1940s. Recruiters falsified personnel files to get people in. US officials scrubbed incriminating evidence from dossiers to bypass security screenings. By falsifying these records, high-ranking party members bypassed vetting processes to infiltrate sensitive US military projects and gain unauthorized access. People still argue about the ethics of this move. The US chose strategic advantage instead of seeking historical accountability, prioritizing long-term geopolitical stability over justice. This decision prioritized technical utility over moral scrutiny. It built a framework where scientific progress functioned independently from any specific political ideology. This influx of expertise also shaped early satellite technology. The fundamental rocket propulsion principles used in those first orbital launches came directly from German V2 research programs, providing the technical foundation for subsequent space exploration. Grouping this talent in certain states changed American economics. This created a specialized workforce that now drives the commercial space industry's growth, fueling rapid technological expansion. This program proved that during the early Cold War, the US government treated recruiting specialized scientists as a direct part of national security. If you enjoyed learning about the space race's secret history, please like the video. It helps the channel grow and allows us to continue uncovering hidden stories. This work lets us find the actual facts behind the world's most famous historical events. Subscribe and hit the bell icon to see our next deep dive into global politics as it happens. As it happens, was Operation Paperclip ethically justifiable? Share your thoughts on the morality of these scientists in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.